Hello, everyone, and greetings from London. I'm at Heathrow Airport right now, waiting for my flight out to Delhi, and thought I could give a brief update about my 90-minute walking tour of London and my impressions of it. So, first, before the 90 minutes of walking, I met a friend for lunch. It was great to catch up with him, and he served as tour guide to show me about the city. Of course, there were things to be expected different, but also a lot of similarities to the United States. Of course, the cars drive on the left side of the road. Even in the airport, it was slightly confusing that they directed people to walk on the left side of the hallways. That was interesting. The roads, of course, were slightly narrower. Cars are a little smaller, more compact cars. No pickup trucks, for certain. Of words here and there that are different. A street sign that says diversion instead of detour. Signs all over the airport that say toilet instead of restrooms. Way out signs instead of exit. And they call the subway the underground or the tube. It was amazing how long the tube cars were. Instead of separate cars for the subway, it was one long car, and you could hardly see from one end to the other of it when you were inside. It was very cool. Anyway, I started with an hour on the underground and partly overground from Heathrow to central London. And the train ride reminded me a lot of Baltimore and the outskirts of Washington, D.C. Lots of brick buildings, row houses close together, overgrown sections that were kind of marshy or small forests that had lots of weeds growing. I suppose the primary difference between the eastern cities in the US and what I saw on the outskirts of London was brown brick buildings here versus the red brick buildings in the US. But otherwise, fairly similar, but much larger. The old brick row houses stretched 45 minutes by train from central London. So it's clearly has been a large city for longer than any American cities. But once I got into the core of London, it looked a little bit more like downtown Chicago. The government district reminded me a lot of Washington, D.C., minus the National Mall. We had lots of old government buildings, lots of limestone with columns. But then the oldest buildings were very impressive. Westminster Abbey is over 900 years old. I'm sorry, the Parliament building is over 900 years old, and Westminster Abbey is over 800 years old. And the stone is obviously shows its age, much older than anything you'd see in America. Let's see, what else? Got to see several of the tourist highlights. We didn't make it out to London Bridge and the Tower or Buckingham Palace, but we got to see Big Ben, which I didn't realize is connected to the Parliament building, which is right next door to Westminster Abbey. And a few other spots near there, some smaller statues and impressive government buildings. A couple other things that one thing that didn't really surprise me, but stood out was how diverse it is here. Lots of ethnic diversity. I heard, I think, 6 different languages on the subway. And I don't think it was only the passengers coming from the international airport to the tourist sites. I think those were a lot of people hopping on at random spots and off at other random spots along the lines. But one last surprise was how early the sun set. Granted, my body clock is 5 hours off here, but the sun set at 4 p.m. local time. And of course, on my body clocked out was only 11 a.m., but still, it was early sunset for local time. and from my experience, I looked up the latitude. We're at 51.5 degrees latitude. That is significantly north of the Canadian-American border. So, yes, probably north of where most of the Canadian population lives. But I suppose the warm ocean makes it more habitable this far north in this particular part of the globe. Anyway, there's my update, and you can expect to hear from me sometime whenever I get time and good internet connection in Rajasthan. So until then, ta-ta.